I woke up to the sound of something breathing. Not loud, not gasping, just deep, slow breaths somewhere inside my apartment. My body locked up. I held my own breath, listening, waiting. The room was completely dark. My phone screen glowed faintly from the nightstand, but I didn't reach for it. I was afraid to move, afraid to make a sound. For a long time there was nothing, just silence. Then, a soft rustling, like fabric shifting, like someone standing up. Inside my room, my stomach clenched. I threw out my arm, fumbling for the bedside lamp, and the moment the light came on, it was gone. The breathing, the rustling, the feeling of someone watching me, gone. But something else was there, something waiting at my front door. I stumbled out of bed, my pulse slamming against my ribs. The apartment was too quiet, too still. I moved toward the door, every step feeling heavier, my breath catching in my throat. There, sitting dead center on my welcome mat, was a box. A plain, unmarked cardboard box, sealed with black tape. No return address, no postage, just my name scrawled across the top in ink that looked smudged, almost like it had been written with shaking hands. I stared at it for a long time. The night before had been bad. Melanie and I had fought, really fought. Screaming, broken dishes, her calling me a selfish bastard before slamming the door so hard the walls shook. We'd fought before, but this time felt different. Final. So when I saw the box, I told myself it was from her. That she'd come back while I was sleeping and left it there. Some kind of twisted apology. Or some kind of revenge. I bent down and picked it up. It was heavier than I expected. Something thumped against the inside. I swallowed hard and peeled back the tape. The box smelled. Thick, wet smell. Something metallic, something rotting. I hesitated, then forced it open, and nearly dropped it. Inside was a dead rat, bloated, split open, and stuffed inside its gaping mouth was a crumpled piece of paper. My fingers shook as I pulled it free, unfolding it carefully, trying not to touch the blood. There were only 2 words, written in red ink. Keep looking. I dropped the note and staggered back, my stomach turning. This wasn't Melanie. Couldn't be. She was angry, but she wasn't insane. I grabbed my phone and texted her. Me, Mel, what the hell is this? No answer. Me, this isn't funny. Nothing. I started pacing the apartment, my pulse hammering. Then my phone buzzed. Melanie, what are you talking about? Me, the box. The thing you left outside. 3 dots appeared. Then, Melanie. I didn't leave anything. I sat down hard in the kitchen chair, my hands sweaty against the phone. She wasn't lying. I knew when she was messing with me, and this wasn't one of those times. I looked back at the box, at the dead rat, at the note that someone had stuffed inside its mouth. My stomach twisted. Then I noticed something else. A small scrap of folded paper at the very bottom of the box. I didn't want to touch it, didn't even want to look at it. But my body moved on its own, like I didn't have a choice. I pulled it out and unfolded it, and felt my entire body go cold. It was a map, messy, hand-drawn, the edges smudged with dirt. But I recognized the location instantly. Hollow Brook Cemetery. And scrawled at the bottom, in the same shaky red ink. See you tonight. I don't know why I went. I should have called the cops. Should have thrown the box in the trash and locked my doors. But I didn't. Instead, at midnight, I got in my car and drove. The map sat in the passenger seat, the lines etched into my brain. The closer I got to the cemetery, the worse I felt, like something was pressing against my chest. The roads were empty, the air thick with fog. When I finally pulled up to the entrance, my headlights swept over the tombstones, rows of them stretching into the dark. I hesitated, gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Then, from somewhere in the distance, I heard a sharp rustling, like something moving, not the wind, something else, something waiting. I stepped out, my breath clouding in the freezing air. The map led me deeper, down the dirt path, through the graves, past the crumbling stone angel. Every few steps, I saw something that made my pulse spike. First, a bouquet of black roses. Then, a single candle still burning. Then, I stopped. The headstone in front of me was brand new. The dirt was still loose. I swallowed hard, stepping closer. And then I saw the name carved into it. My name. First, middle, last, and the date of death. Tomorrow. I staggered back, my vision swimming. No, 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 no. My hands shook as I turned, ready to run. But then, a flash of white caught my eye. A photo, taped to another grave, just a few feet away. I stepped closer. It was me, taken from behind, as I walked into the cemetery. My exact outfit. Tonight, someone had been following me. Someone was here, right now. And then, just behind me, a footstep. Close, too close. I turned, and saw nothing, just the graves, and the heavy silence of someone still watching. I should have run, should have gotten in my car and never looked back. But I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring at the photo of myself taped to the grave. Taken tonight, taken as I walked into the cemetery. Someone had been watching me, following me, and they were still here, somewhere. Close. Then, a snap behind me, a dry, brittle twig breaking underfoot. I turned so fast I nearly fell over. But there was nothing, just the tombstones, the thick, suffocating darkness between them, the silence of someone still watching. I took a step back, then another. I forced myself to breathe, to think. This was a game. Someone was messing with me. Melanie? Her friends? Maybe they wanted revenge for the fight. Maybe they thought this was funny. But as I looked at the graves, at my name carved into stone, at the photos that shouldn't exist, I knew this wasn't a prank. This was something else. Something wrong. I turned and started walking. Not fast. Not running. Just moving. Because the moment I ran was the moment whoever was here would chase me. I passed more graves, more candles, the scent of something rotten clinging to the cold air. And then, ahead of me, something new. A small, wooden box sitting at the base of a headstone. Perfectly placed. Like it had been left for me. I stopped. My heart hammered. The box was old. The wood dark and warped, the lid slightly ajar. Something inside it moved. Not fast. Not violent. Just a slow shift of weight. Like something breathing. The wind whispered through the trees. The candles flickered. I shouldn't have done it. But I stepped closer. And pushed the lid open. Inside, teeth. Rows and rows of human teeth. Loose, yellowed, piled on top of each other. Some cracked. Some still with dried gum attached. And in the very center, a small black velvet pouch. I didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to see what was inside. But my hands moved on their own. Like I wasn't in control anymore. I pulled it free, my fingers trembling. I could feel something inside it. Something small. Something hard. I turned it over, and a wedding ring tumbled out. It hit the frozen dirt with a soft metallic sound. My stomach turned to ice. Because I knew this ring. I had seen it 1,000 times. It was Melanie's. I staggered back, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. No, 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 no. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone and dialed her number. It rang once, twice, then, straight to voicemail. My pulse spiked. I texted her. Me, Mel, where are you? Me, please answer. No response. Just the heavy silence of the graveyard. And then, behind me, footsteps. Not far. Not running. Just slow, steady steps. Coming closer. I turned, my vision swimming. Nothing. Again. Just the endless rows of tombstones. I needed to leave. I needed to find Melanie. But then, I saw the second box. Sitting 20 feet away. Waiting. A fresh candle burned beside it. Flickering. Like someone had just lit it. I moved toward it. My breath uneven. The lid was shut tight this time. No slow movement inside. No sound. Just a solid, still box. Waiting to be opened. I clenched my jaw and pried the lid up. And inside was hair. Dark. Long. A thick bundle of hair, tied together with a silk ribbon. I gagged, stepping back so fast I nearly tripped over a headstone. Then, I saw the note tucked underneath. Another scrap of yellowed paper. I reached for it with numb fingers and unfolded it. Only one sentence, written in red ink. Keep going. You're almost home. The wind picked up. Something moved in the distance. A flicker of white between the trees. A shape, person, watching. And suddenly I understood. They were leading me somewhere. Every box, every clue. They weren't trying to scare me away. They were trying to bring me deeper, step by step, grave by grave, until I reached the end. I turned and started running. I didn't care anymore. I wasn't playing their game. I wasn't looking in another box. I wasn't taking another step toward whatever was waiting for me. I sprinted back toward the entrance, my breath burning in my chest. But then I saw it, blocking the gates. A figure, tall, motionless, just standing there, waiting. I skidded to a stop, my throat locking up. And then, slowly, the figure lifted an arm and pointed behind me. I didn't want to turn, didn't want to see what they wanted me to see. But I did. I had to. And that's when I saw the coffin. A fresh, open coffin, sitting in the middle of the graveyard. And inside was me. I wasn't breathing. I wasn't thinking. I just stared at the coffin, at the thing inside it. It was me, or at least it looked like me. The figure was dressed exactly like I was. Same jeans, same jacket. But the face, it wasn't real. It was a mask. Pale. Plastic. Molded to look just like mine. It was stretched too tight over the shape of a head. The eyes hollow. The mouth frozen in a slight, almost smile. Like it was mocking me. I staggered back, my heart hammering. Then the mask twitched. Not much. Just enough. Just enough to prove there was a real person inside that coffin. A sound rose in the distance. At first I thought it was the wind. Then I realized it was laughter. Soft, sing-song giggles, curling through the night like smoke. The hairs on my arms stood on end. I turned, my breath clouding in the air, my body locking up. At first I didn't see anyone. Just the endless rows of tombstones stretching into the dark. But then, a flicker of white fabric. Just at the edge of my vision. A figure standing between the graves. Then another. And another. All women. Dressed in flowing, pale dresses. Their long hair unkempt. Their faces hidden beneath dark veils. Not moving. Not speaking. Just watching me. I swallowed hard, my stomach twisting. They looked like ghosts. Like something from a ritual, a nightmare. A sick thought clawed at the back of my mind. Witches. Like something out of a horror film. Like something that shouldn't be real. But they were. And they weren't going anywhere. The wind shifted, carrying a thick, rotting stench. I gagged, stepping back, my foot slipping on something. I looked down. The ground was covered in dead birds. Dozens of them. Black, lifeless crows. Their wings bent at unnatural angles. Their glassy eyes staring up at me. Some were fresh. Some were decayed. I stumbled away, panic curling in my chest. And then, the sky moved. I looked up and saw them, a massive flock of crows, circling above the cemetery. Hundreds of them, moving in an endless, churning spiral. Like they were waiting, like they were here for me. A whisper drifted through the graveyard. Low, soft, keep going. It wasn't a single voice. It was many, layered over each other, rising and falling like the wind in the trees. I turned back to the women, my hands clenched into fists. What do you want? They didn't answer. But one of them, the tallest, lifted an arm and pointed, not at me, at something behind me. I turned, my entire body tense. There, leaning against the open coffin, was a shovel. Old, rusted, its wooden handle worn smooth, like someone had been using it for years. I felt sick. No, I whispered. The wind howled through the cemetery. The birds screamed overhead. And then, a voice. Then we'll do it for you. I don't remember grabbing the shovel. I don't remember moving at all. But suddenly I was digging. The metal blade cut into wet earth. The scent of soil and decay thick in my nose. The ground was softer than it should have been, like it had been disturbed before, like someone had already started this grave. And now, I was finishing it. I dug until the shovel hit something solid. A hollow wooden thud. My entire body went numb. I let the shovel drop and fell to my knees. My hands trembled as I reached forward, brushing away the dirt. It was another coffin. Smaller. The wood was darker, older, and carved into the lid was a name. I leaned forward, my breath catching in my throat. Then the moonlight hit it, and I saw the name. Melanie. The laughter stopped. The birds fell silent. The air collapsed into nothing. The entire cemetery was holding its breath. I was shaking. My hands slid under the edge of the lid. I didn't want to open it. Didn't want to see what was inside. But I had to. I gritted my teeth, held my breath, and pushed the lid open. Something moved inside. I jerked back, choking on a gasp. The body inside twitched. Faint, shuddering breath. Not a corpse. Not a dummy. Melanie was alive. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. Her wrists were bound with thick rope. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed, unfocused. Then, she saw me. Her mouth opened, and she started screaming. Melanie's scream ripped through the night. Raw. Animalistic. I flinched back, nearly dropping the coffin lid. Her eyes were wild, darting around in a panic. Her wrists pulling against the thick rope biting into her skin. She was breathing. Alive. But she wasn't okay. Not even close. Melanie! I gasped, reaching for her. She flinched away, pressed herself into the coffin like she was more afraid of me than whatever had put her here. Her lips trembled. Don't, she whispered. You shouldn't have come. My stomach turned to ice. Who did this? I demanded. No answer. Not from her. Not from the women watching us from the dark. Then, laughter. A soft, melodic giggle. It echoed through the cemetery, curling around the tombstones like fog. I turned and saw them, the three women, standing between the graves, their veils shimmering under the moonlight. They hadn't moved. They hadn't come closer, but I could feel them pressing in, like the air around me was getting thicker, heavier, suffocating. Let her go, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. No response, only the wind rushing through the trees. Then one of them stepped forward, and I finally saw her face. Melanie's best friend. Holly. She smiled. A slow, knowing grin. You never really appreciated her, did you? She murmured. My heart slammed against my ribs. I looked at Melanie. She wouldn't meet my gaze. Her breath came in short, uneven gasps, her hands twitching against the ropes. You're insane, I spat. Holly tilted her head. Am I? She took another step, then another. The other two women followed, their pale dresses whispering against the grass. A ritual. Punishment. And I was the one paying the price. You think this is a joke? I snapped. My voice cracked. You buried her. You left her out here to die. Holly only smiled. She's still breathing, isn't she? I clenched my jaw. My fingers curled into fists. You wanted revenge, I hissed. You got it. It's over. Holly's smile widened. Oh, sweetheart. She leaned in. Her breath was warm against my cheek. It's only just beginning. A rustling sound. I snapped my head toward the trees. The crows had descended, perched along the tombstones. Their black beady eyes locked onto me. Not moving. Not blinking. Waiting. Like they knew what was about to happen. You never loved her, Holly whispered. The words slithered down my spine like ice. You used her. Wasted her time. And now, her fingers traced the edge of the coffin. Now, you get to know what it feels like to be left behind. My body locked up. The laughter was rising again, not just from Holly, but from the other girls too. Soft, sweet, but their smiles were anything but. I took a step back, then another, and then I ran. I didn't get far. Hands grabbed me, from behind, from the sides, cold fingers curling around my wrists, my throat, my arms. They pulled me down. I struggled, kicking, thrashing, but they were too strong. I hit the dirt with a choked gasp. The sky swam above me. Holly's face hovered into view, her veil brushing against my skin. "Don't fight it," she cooed. She pressed something against my chest. Something cold. I looked down and felt my blood turn to ice. A wedding ring, Melanie's, tied to a silk ribbon, wrapped around my throat like a noose. They dragged me backward, through the grass, through the mud. My hands clawed at the earth, my nails snapping against the frozen dirt. The birds above us were screeching now. The sound was deafening. And then, the grave. I saw it. Pit already dug. Wide enough for a coffin. Wide enough for me. Holly knelt beside me. Her lips brushed my ear. Time to say goodnight. And then, everything went dark. I woke up underground. Cold. Suffocating. Dirt filled my mouth, my nose, my lungs. I couldn't move. The weight of the earth pressed down on my chest. Then I heard them. The voices above. Muffled. Laughing. Melanie. Holly. The others. They were still here. And they were burying me alive. I thrashed. Kicked. The soil shifted around me, collapsing into my mouth. I coughed, choking on the taste of mud and blood. "Please," I gasped. Footsteps above. More dirt falling. Melanie's voice, soft and distant. "He's still awake." A pause. Then Holly. "Not for long." The air was thinning. My head was spinning. I could hear the shovel slicing into the dirt. Could feel the soil raining down on me. Faster. Faster. Burying me deeper. "I'm sorry." I tried to scream, but it came out as a weak, broken whisper. No one answered. Then, the final handful of dirt, pressed against my face, stealing the last sliver of light. Then, silence. I don't know how long I was down there. Minutes. Hours. I stopped fighting. Stopped breathing. Then, a vibration. Distant. Familiar. My phone. Still in my jacket pocket. I forced my hand through the dirt, my fingers clawing for it. My vision blurred. My body numb. I pulled it free. One notification. A text. Unknown number. Happy Valentine's Day.